Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? Happy Tuesday. Okay, I'm sitting inside because I'm trying to upload these videos, but also because it is freezing cold outside. It is really, really cold. I haven't even checked the temperature, but I stepped outside to get the mail, and I was like, oh my God, it's so cold outside. And I am sitting here because I want to get these videos done and up because I have about an hour, and then, well, probably about an hour and 5 or 10 minutes, and then I have to get in the shower to get ready, and then Alex is going to run me over to Tawny Jean's house, and then we're going to a meeting tonight, and I'm very, very excited about it. I'm very excited to get out of the house, go to a meeting, see some of my friends tonight. I'm really excited about all that. So, that is tonight, and so I'm trying to, yeah, like I said, get these videos up. I am currently uploading my booktube video and my drama video. And then I also filmed a Peter Does Stuff video, and I also filmed a TV video today. So my TV video is my reaction to last week's episode of 1,000 Pound Sisters, of which I am now binge watching 1,000 Pound Best Friends, and I am absolutely loving it. I really didn't think that I was going to like it when it first started. First of all, I just need to light this candle. This whole thing feels a little off. I brought over the Yankee candle, and this candle I really, really like. Look, I burn this every night, and I've been burning it like every night for like 2 weeks, for hours, for like 3 or 4 hours, and this is as far down as it's gone. And actually, when I reviewed these candles, I was not impressed with the smell. I said that I didn't remember them. I felt like they smelled very plastic, and the throw wasn't very good. But actually, they burn really strong, and they're really nice. And this is the Kitchen Spice candle, and I really, really like it. So I thought that we would burn this one tonight to do something a little bit different. Ooh, that looks so pretty over there. Look at that, this little light of mine. So yeah, so tonight, 1,000 Pound Sisters is on, so I had notes from last week's episode. Maybe it was the week before. No, it was last week. Last week's episode, 1,000 Pound Sisters. And I was like, I did not take notes on this episode just to not do the video. So I was like, I'm going to do the video today. But I also talked about how when I finish season 1 of 1,000 Pound Best Friends, I'm going to do a reaction to it. So a couple of you guys had recommended it to me. Some other people had recommended it to me. I started it a couple weeks ago, and I just was like, I don't know that I can get into this show. And then I started it again a couple nights ago. I went back and I started it over, and I was like, oh, I really love this. I'm really, really liking it. So I did that review today, or I did that reaction today, and then I did a booktube video, which I'm going to talk about a little bit of what I was talking about. So I talked about the books that I'm reading right now currently, but it went into more talking about self-care, which I'll get into in just a second, talking about self-care. And then I did a drama video today talking about Trisha Paytas's Christmas music video that came out called Pink Christmas. And then I also talked at length about people criticizing Michaela Nogueira online, and that was the meat and potatoes of that video. So when this drama video gets done uploading, which it almost is, then I will upload the other 2 videos. The thumbnails are already made for all of those. So when I'm done vlogging, I can just put all those together and upload those and post them, and then take a shower and get ready and go to my meeting tonight. The vlog will be done. It will be uploading while I'm gone. So when I get home from my meeting, I can post that, and then tonight, just relax. And then tomorrow is Cousin Fun Day. Caroline's actually coming to pick me up a little bit later tomorrow. She said she'd be here about 1:20 because she's got a meeting like at 11. So she said she'd be here about 1:20, which is fine. I don't really have a lot to do tomorrow. I texted her back and I said, if you don't want to do tomorrow, I'm totally fine. Like, I don't have tons to do. And she was like, no, I want to come pick you up. So it'll be good for me to get out of the house and just kind of run around and get a coffee and stuff like that. And oh, this one's done. And stop by the post office and whatnot. But I don't really have tons to do tomorrow, which is good that I don't have tons to do tomorrow, because then I can just kind of be the ride along for her. Hold on a second, I want to delete some of these videos. Hold on a second. These videos that I was like uploading earlier. So yeah, so that'll be good that tomorrow. Who texted me? That'll be good that tomorrow I can just kind of like run around with her and hang out. Okay, which one am I going to upload next? Let's do the Peter Does Stuff video. So my Peter Does Stuff video today is actually about putting the Christmas bedding on, which I did today. And it's kind of an emotional video. I had a really hard time putting the Christmas bedding on today in a way that I didn't really expect to feel. I don't really want to get into a lot of it. You guys can go over there and watch that video. I just like cried my eyes out and talked all about it. You know, every year, Boo Radley and I, for the last 2 years, have put up the Christmas bedding. The last, you know, well, I mean, all the dogs and I, you know, but the last 2 years. And I have always pictures of Boo Radley, like, sleeping on the Christmas bedding and then taking down the Halloween bedding that, you know, we had, like, the sheets we kept on changing, but, like, the bedding, like, the ghost blanket and stuff was, like, the last blanket that Boo Radley slept on. And so it was hard. It was hard. It was in a way that I didn't expect. I think that's the weird thing about grief, is that it, like, hits you out of nowhere, you know? And I totally did not expect that today when I changed the linens. But changed the linens, and then so I had each of the Christmas tree pillows on, like, one pillow. You can go over there and you can watch the video. I had, like, on each plaid pillow, I had, like, one of the Christmas trees pillows that I bought. I didn't use, Alex asked me, he was like, why didn't you use the snowflake pillows? I was like, I don't know, they didn't look right or something. Maybe I will. He really, really loves, I just showed Alex the bedding and stuff like that. He's actually upstairs right now. So I showed him the bed. He's like, oh, you changed the bedding today and everything. And so he, like, took this white pillow, like one of the Christmas pillows that we have from, like, previous years. He took it and put it in the middle and, like, put the 2 Christmas trees on that side. It looks so much better. I'm like, this is why you're the interior decorator and I'm not, because this looks so much better than what I had. But I can pick stuff out. I just can't put it together. Okay. The Christmas bedding. Hold on a second. I'm uploading that video right now. The Christmas bedding that I bought, so this will be very warm. He also said that the what is it, Sherpa, is that what you call it? The fleece blanket that I bought for the end of the bed, he also said, he goes, that doesn't match. I go, I know, but it's just supposed to be, like, comforting. I go, I think it kind of, I kind of like that it doesn't match, that it's mismatched. He goes, yeah, it doesn't really matter. So I said, just keep us warm. It's so cold outside. That was one of the reasons. Well, first of all, I was like, it's December 3rd. It's time to put the Christmas bedding on. But the other part of me was like, it's so cold outside, and the comforter that we have is flannel. The new sheets that I have, the green ones, are bamboo. I love those bamboo sheets. For all of you out there that recommended the bamboo sheets to me, thank you. I'm obsessed with the bamboo sheets. But the comforter is flannel, and then the blanket at the end of the bed is like, is it Sherpa or fleece? I don't know, fleece. It's like, you know, whatever. And so I have that blanket on the end of it. So it'll be real cozy to sleep in. But the other comforter that I bought is like, I showed it in that video too. And I'm going to put it up like the week of Christmas. I'll probably have this up 2 weeks and then do the other one 2 weeks. And then some of the stuff from last year I'll probably put up throughout January and February and whatever. It's not necessarily Christmas bedding. It's just like plaid bedding and whatever. It's still, you can, you know, have it throughout the winter. But Alex really, really liked that comforter. It reminds me of my Aunt Kathy a little bit. It's kind of like these vintage, like, scenes of, like, a barn and then animals playing in the wild. And it's like this kind of maroonish red against, like, this cream background, and the underlay is, like, bright red. It's really pretty. And Alex is like, and it comes with, like, 2 pillow shams. And Alex was like, ooh, I really like that. So I'll put that on. I'll show that when I put that on. I said at the end of the video, because like I said, I was so emotional doing the video, that when I get the Christmas tree up over here and I get the front porch done, which really done means I have the believe sign to put out there, and when that's up, it'll be done. Oh, and the bell behind. So we have, like, these reindeer bells that I put behind the wreath that my mom had when I was growing up. When all that stuff is done, it's kind of done. I'm like, I can hardly even go outside for like 5 minutes because it is so cold outside. Hold on a second. Did I save this thumbnail? I need to save this thumbnail if I didn't. Okay, let's look up the Indianapolis weather right now. I have pictures of 1,000 Pound Sisters because I was Indianapolis weather. It is currently 27 degrees outside. The snow is still on the ground. Does it say low of 24 tonight? That can't be right. Last night it was so cold last night. How can it be 27? Oh, it's 22 right now, it says. As of 4:57, it's 5:25 right now. But as of 4:57, it was 22 degrees outside. Tomorrow it's supposed to be a little bit warmer. Tomorrow it's supposed to be 42. And then Thursday it goes down to 24. And then Friday, 31. No snow, though. Rain showers coming up, but no snow. And then Saturday, 43. And then this weekend, Sunday and Monday. Well, Monday's not really a weekend, but 52 and 56. That'll be nicer. Then, and then 42, 36, 38, 44, 44, 48, 48, and 40. I mean, it's cold, but it's not too cold. The next time it's supposed to snow, it shows on here, is Tuesday the 17th. Oh, that's my sobriety birthday. That's 2 weeks from tonight. Isn't it so weird that my sobriety birthday this year falls on my home group meeting? Seems strange. Seems real strange coming up on 30 years. I don't know why. I mean, in all honesty, like, I know when I say that, a lot of people are like, you don't know why, 30 years of sobriety, but I don't really know how to explain this. Like, 29 doesn't really feel a whole lot different than 30, you know, except for that when I look at it in the grand scheme of things, and I am somebody that looks at like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 5 years, things like that. And so when I look at it like 30 years of my life, you know, I'll tell you what was a really, what birthday would it have been? God, when would it have been? So I'm trying to think. Somebody will be able to do the math out there. I don't know. But it's when I had been sober longer than half of my life. Does that make sense? Okay, so I got sober at 22 and a half. So it was like when I would have been, what, 45, 46 or something like that. That birthday was like weird to me. Because I mean now, like, you know, I'm 52 years old and I'm been sober 30 years. So I've been sober longer than I was not sober in my life. So that part is weird to me. You know, it's like, when you think about things and it's like, you know, I've been gone from like high school longer than I was in like elementary. I mean, you know, when you think about like kindergarten, elementary, junior high, and high school and how long that felt, and then you look back and you're like, I've been gone from that twice as long, you know, as I was there. It's like, it's so bizarre to me, you know, like I resigned from my working in treatment in 2008, in January of 2008. Well, I went in, like, resigned in December, but January was my last month there. And so that was in 2008. And, like, I have been gone, so what is that, 16 years that I've been gone, you know? So it'll be 17 years. I mean, it's so crazy that I was there almost 13 years, and it felt like I worked there forever, and I've been gone longer than I worked there, you know? It's crazy to me. So anyway, so yeah, 30 years does seem like a huge period of time, but I think it's so implanted in our minds as sober people that the saying, you know, is the person that gets up early this morning, the earliest this morning is the person that has the most sobriety, meaning that we're only given 1 day reprieve from our addiction, which I believe. It does feel different being sober 29 years and 11 months plus versus being sober 29 days. The fight is a lot different. The feelings and the emotions inside are a lot different. From being sober 29 months to 29 years is a lot different. But, you know, I think one thing, like my friends and I that have been sober all around about the same time, we talk about this a lot, that there's a lot of obstacles that come with long-term sobriety there's a lot of things that come with long-term sobriety that you wouldn't necessarily think about. You know, like when you're in early sobriety, you think about, by the way, I just poured myself some iced coffee. I've been making hot coffee, so I made myself some iced coffee and I put it in my Christmas Tervis cup, my Tervis little tumbler cup over here. Snoopy. In early sobriety, like the first year, I would say 6 months to a year, is really about like getting through every day. I mean, my first few months, like I've talked about this so many times, it was literally like, it wasn't even when they would say, you know, 1 day at a time. It was 1 hour, 1/2 hour, 1 minute at a time. Literally it was. I can remember times sitting, I can see my apartment that I lived in at the time, and I can see myself sitting at the kitchen island, and I had like this phone. I can remember it was like one of these, like, I thought it was modern. Looking back, it wasn't modern. But, you know, it was like one of those like straight phones, and with this long cord that draped down, and I could sit on this, you know, bar stool there, and I can remember I had this clock over my stove in the kitchen, and I would look at the clock, and I'd be like if I was looking at it right now, it's like 5:30, and I can remember, like, people ask me, like, how did you get through cravings? This is the only thing I know that worked for me. I would be craving so bad. Like, I would want to drink or, you know, eat pills or, you know, whatever I was wanting to do so bad in that moment. And I can remember, and smoking pot was so hard for me at the beginning because I rationalized it. I never got in trouble for it. It wasn't that expensive for me. So it was really easy for me to rationalize smoking pot. And I know there's a lot of people out there that can do it successfully. But for me, it's just going to be like off to the races because I'll just use it as an excuse for like, well, now that you smoke pot, you might as well do this and you might as well do that. So anyway, so I can remember sitting there and I'd be like, okay, it's 5:31. And I would look at the clock in the kitchen and I'd be like, if I can just make it till 6 o'clock, then at 6 o'clock I can use. And I lived like right down, I mean, it was like a 5-minute walk from a liquor store. This Ace, I think it was called Ace. Was it called Ace Liquors? Was that no, I think that was the one on the way home from my dad's house. And I was like, if I can just make it till 6 and I can walk down to the liquor store and I can buy some alcohol. Or I had all these, like, I had all my dealers' names on like little scraps of paper. I mean, this was before cell phones. You didn't keep, you know, so you had little scraps of paper in your, you know, wallet or whatever. And I can remember I would have like those pieces of paper, like 3 or 4 numbers sitting next to numbers that people would give me at meetings. Today, typically, when you go to a 12-step meeting, like for your first time, we have like books that have like all, like little books that are free, that have all the meetings in them, you know, Sunday through Saturday, and they have like, you know, north side, south side, east side, west side, and they'll have every meeting that's listed. And then on the back of that, it'll have like lines, and it'll even say like name, phone number, and then they'll pass it around, and then everybody will put like, you know, for like if it's a new man, like all the men will put their names on it. If it's a new woman, all the women will put their names on it. Sometimes they won't pass that around. They'll just pass around like a phone number sheet, and everybody can write their names down. Some meetings, like my home group meeting, anybody that wants to be a prospective sponsor or just is willing to be a number that somebody can call if they're in trouble or whatever, like all of our names are listed if you're willing to do that, like our names and our phone numbers, and so they just give those out to the newcomers. But back in the day, I remember this one guy had cards. I've met a couple people through, I mean, maybe more than a couple, maybe 10 or 20 through the years that have like literally, like they have business cards that will say like, it'll just say like Peter Monn and then the phone number, or Peter M and then the phone number on it. Like they give to people like that they meet in sobriety, right? But back then it was like people would literally, you know, pull off little bits of like their, you know, piece of their checkbook, you know, like receipt or whatever, and write their name down on it, or, you know, like a scrap of paper or something like at the place. I can remember like I was going to this meeting at a funeral home a lot back in the day. It was on Wednesday nights. It's so bizarre. I can remember we split up into 2 groups, and one group was smoking and one group was non-smoking. I can remember thinking how bizarre it was. There was and I smoked during that meeting, that there was a smoking meeting inside a funeral home. But I can remember this one meeting. It was like, it must have been like one of the first times I went there and I shared something. Like, I didn't share a lot in my early days. I was like, I mean, I'm super, like my social anxiety and stuff, and I didn't share a lot. But I feel like one of my first times there I did share. I was having like a really hard time. And I feel like it was like maybe right after I got out of treatment. Because I can see this one guy coming up to me. The bikers were always like really, really nice to me when I first got sober. Like, I mean, I kind of partied with some bikers back in the day too, but like the bikers were always really nice to me, the sober bikers. And I can remember this guy, and he had like a leather, you know, biker jacket on with like all the patches and all kind of, he was like in some biker gang. And he had real long hair and like a beard. And I can remember he came up and he like handed me this thing, and it had his like name. He had written his name down and stuff like that. And he was like, please call me. And he was actually somebody that I did call. But I think it was him that I called. The girl that she and I both got sober, we were about the same age. She might be a year or two older than me, that I see around every once in a while. I would see her at that meeting, and then I would see her on campus at school when I went back to school. But you know, those first days, so I would go back and forth, and I'd be like, if you can just make it till 6 o'clock and not use, and at 6 o'clock you can walk down the liquor store, or you can call one of these dealers. And so I would have like 4 or 5 names. I've shared this story so many times. 4 or 5 names of people, more than that, probably 10, you know, names I just kept in like my pocket, or my, you know, I'd come home from a meeting, I just 3 new names I just put down. And so, you know, I'd pull them all out, and I would just call those numbers until I got a hold of somebody, and they'd be like, hey, what's going on? And I can remember, you know, we talk about the hand of responsibility, and I can remember reaching out to these people, and I'd be like, they'd be like, hey, who is this? And I'd be like, this is Peter, and I met you at Wednesday night or whatever. And like, I mean, every single one of them, like right away, would be like, hey, what do you need? Like, do you need to talk? Do you need me to come pick you up? I mean, they just always were there, you know? No matter if I had met them, I mean, it almost brings me to tears. No matter if I'd only met them one time, or if I knew them because I had been to that meeting several times or whatever. I can remember there was this one meeting that I went to, I think it was on Thursday nights, and it was at this union hall. And it was me, and it was like, and the reason I went was because I typically went to meetings that I knew because like I'd gone there with somebody or whatever. And I remember this meeting, like when we were in treatment, it was like, I think it was a Thursday night. When I was in treatment, they had taken us there at one point. I can remember it was so snowy outside and stuff, and they took us to this meeting, and there was like nobody there. And I can remember it was like all these old guys, and they just like talked and talked and talked, and it was just like real easy for the rest of us to kind of like float in the background. But this wasn't a typical meeting. Like when I was in treatment, there were typical meetings that they would take us to. This wasn't one of the typical meetings. I don't know why we went to that meeting that night, but it was one of the meetings that I went to afterwards, and I started to consistently go to it. And it was like the same 6 or 7, 8 guys that were always there. And they were like 65, 70. And they were so hard on me, but they were like so hard on me like in a very direct way. I mean, these were the guys that would say things like, I spilled more alcohol than you ever drank and stuff like that. But like if I ever needed anything, I can remember reaching out to a couple of them. I mean, this one guy, like, I mean, he came at like 2 o'clock in the morning and picked me up. Because I was like, I just can't be alone. And these people were so nice. This one guy that I would go to the funeral home meeting. I mean, I knew he was so nice whenever I would go to that. I mean, we were talking 29 years ago and 11 months that I used to go to this. I mean, that whole first year I went to this meeting. And I can remember he was always there. I remember this funny story that I would tell, and I always remembered him. And I would see him around every once in a while, like maybe every 3 to 4 years, I'd see him at somewhere, but just kind of off in the distance. And if I saw him, I'd be like, wave and whatever. To find out that he and his wife are really, really good friends with my sponsor. And that's so crazy. Like his name just kind of came up one night. I was like, there's this guy, and she was like, how did it come up? I think I was telling her the story that he said that was so funny. And she goes, oh my God, I know that story. That's my friend so-and-so. And I was like, yeah. I was like, how do you know him? She's like, I've known him since I got sober. My sponsor has a year less than I do. So we like know a lot of the same people. But she actually didn't get sober in Indianapolis. She started coming here like a year after she got sober. But she knows a lot of the people. I mean, she obviously, she goes to meetings all over town. So she knows all kinds of, different people. So it's funny because I'll be at a meeting, I'll be like, oh, I met somebody that knows you. And they're like, how do you, and she's like, oh, I met them at such and such a long time. Anyway, so it's weird because like the things that, okay, got that video up, now get the next video up. The things that I focused on, or the things that were hard my first 6 months to a year sober, are obviously not the things. It's interesting because it's the things that a lot of people ask about in videos. Hold on a second. What is this? I know that was my BookTube video. Oh, here it is. Okay. It's interesting because it's a lot of the things that people will ask me in videos. Hold on a second. No, I don't want to play it. Like when Alex and I do couples videos, or I'll talk about Alex and whatever, drinking and videos or whatever, there's at least always one person I'll be like, does it bother you when Alex drinks around you? That's not really, I mean, I answer the question because people ask, but it's not really a question that if I was sitting at a meeting, like tonight, if I went to a meeting and that topic came up, like with any of my friends that have the same amount of sobriety or I do, or 10 years less, like the conversation wouldn't be, does it bother you? I mean, like I've said this in videos before, like friends of mine have full bars in their house. Their spouses drink every night, and they'll host parties and serve alcohol and stuff like that. The question wouldn't be, does it bother you if your spouse drinks? The question would be, what is going on with you internally that when your spouse drinks, you want to crave that bad? Because at 29 years, you should have been working through all kinds of shit that seeing a glass of wine or seeing a whole bottle of whiskey or an open bar is not going to trigger you that way. If it has, you haven't worked on the things inside. I mean, we know today that addiction is drinking is but a symptom of our other issues. And so that's what a 12-step program is about. So I answer the question, but when I get those questions, those are I feel like those are things that like are early on. Like I purposely, you know, like in early sobriety, I heard like if you hang around a barbershop, you're going to get your hair cut. And I heard all these kinds of things. So I purposely did not go to bars and stuff like early on in sobriety. I wasn't around alcohol. Like that was a huge issue for me. And I still do know people that are, you know, 30 plus years sober that don't go to bars and don't have alcohol around them and things like that. I know a few, but by and large, most of the people, I mean, it's said in our basic text that you can do that. So anyway, but like when I get that question, I typically feel like that's somebody that is relating to somebody that's in earlier sobriety. That would have been something that in early sobriety would have really bothered me, you know? I don't know that I could have been around it. But I also just did what I was told. So that was one of the reasons why, hold on a second, let me get this video up. That was one of the reasons why I didn't, even though I challenged everything that I was told to do. I mean, I always ask why, but I still did it in the long run. But other things were like, I couldn't be around like old friends of mine and things like that. Even if they weren't using, there was a lot of it that reminded me of the old times. You know, it wasn't always just about the drink or the drug. I think that's also another misconception. I don't know, maybe with other people, but like when you talk to, well, for me, it was a lot about the pre-gaming. It was a lot about the chasing of the drugs, the putting money together. It was like the excitement of it all, right? Like that was a huge part of it, especially when it came to drugs. Not maybe so much about drinking, but when it came to drugs, it was a lot about that, about the chasing and the figuring it out and how much can you have and how much can you save. With alcohol, it was a lot about like saving it. So I would have it for the next day or do this or hiding it at certain place. I mean, it was like that whole thing, all of that. I was addicted to that as much as that, you know, like it's very similar to how like when I got sober, people were a lot older than me, most of them. So I would hear people talk about, you know, every night they got off work, they would go to the same bar and they loved how the bar looked and the bottle sitting behind the bar and the laughter of the other people sitting at the bar and the bartender and things like that, you know? It's why one of the reasons why I love the book Drinking a Love Story by Carolyn Knopf. If you have somebody that's early in sobriety and they like to read, I would highly recommend that book to them. It's called Drinking a Love Story. And what it's really about is it's about our romantic relationship, our love relationship that we have with alcohol or drugs. It's about, she passed away, I think, years later from lung cancer, sadly, but it's about, I can remember this one part where she's talking about the legs on a glass of wine, and she's talking about, like, moving the wine around in it. It's about falling in love with all of those things. It's not just about the getting drunk or getting high. It's about all those things together, you know? I mean, I could sit here and talk myself into romancing all of that because there was a lot of good times that I had, you know, like I can remember like sitting with my friends, you know, in my apartment or, you know, some dude that I had some interest in and, you know, like, I mean, even back in the day, like opening like cheap, I can remember one whole winter, like drinking Captain Morgan's rum, and I don't even know who got me started on it, but it was like this whole thing that I did this whole like winter. It was like Captain Morgan's and Coke, and I was like, and it was something about that. I can still see the bottle in my head. I would have drank any rum. I didn't even care if it was rum. I would have drank vodka or tequila. I would have drank, oh, I didn't like tequila, but I would have drank anything with it, right? Because for me, it was about the getting buzzed. But there was something about that Captain Morgan's bottle, and it was something about that drink and ordering that drink. I don't know what it was, you know? To this day, I don't even really understand it. But a lot of it is about that. A lot of it is about the romancing of it. A lot of it is about that alcohol and drugs are our romantic partner, our best, because, you know, we have to be intoxicated to be intimate. And we, you know, when we are drunk or high, we open up and we talk more about stuff, or we numb ourselves with it, or we medicate ourselves with it, or so it's our best friend, it's our lover, it's our confidant, it's our therapist. Alcohol and drugs become all of that for us. So that's not so much about just wanting to get drunk and whatever. So today, if I'm in a place where I'm really craving, the real question is, what's going on with you? You know, not to say that there are not days that don't sound good to like, shit, I'd love to just go get drunk and forget about everything for a day. But I know that tomorrow I'm going to have to pick up the pieces. I mean, that tape is in my head, right? I think that's another difference between early in sobriety and now. Like early in sobriety, I would have really thought about that. Like, well, okay, you only have 60 days. You can get a start over token. Let's just go out and have a great weekend and, you know, whatever, which would have ended up in disaster for me. At 29 years, there's a lot that I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose my sobriety, number one. I'm going to lose my marriage, probably. Not going to be making YouTube videos anymore. I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose everything. Because one is too many, is 1,000 is never enough. So that's a lot different too. I think that's why a lot of people relapse in early sobriety. It was easier for me to rationalize why I could use it. The camera stopped. It was easier for me to rationalize why I could use that first year, because it didn't feel like, even though I was at the bottom, it didn't feel like I could rationalize why there wasn't so much still to lose. What was I watching the other day? God, what was I watching? And they were talking about, I feel like it was something Alex and I were watching, and it had to do with addiction. Do you have your AirPods in? I think he's sleeping. Anyway, Alex and I were watching some movie, and there was addiction in it. Maybe it was a TV show that we were watching. What was I watching? And the mother said something to her son, about, I love you so much. Like, if you knew how much I loved you, like, you wouldn't. And I thought, I wish this was the one thing that people would understand. This is why it's so important to set limits and boundaries and not enable addicts and alcoholics. And I'm so glad that my dad figured it out when he did, because I have friends of mine who, didn't get sober until they were 40, 50 years old, and their families continue to give them money, pay their bills, do all this kind of stuff for them. And I think the other thing is that enablers get such a negative connotation. It's like, oh, they're bad people. They do it out of love. Anybody that's enabling somebody, it's not because they want them to die. It's because they haven't been taught another way. They do it because they love those people. They're scared for them. They're afraid that they're going to go out there and die, But I think the one thing is that if love were enough, and I've said this a million times, we wouldn't need treatment programs. We wouldn't need churches to help people that are addicts and alcoholics. We wouldn't need 12-step programs. We wouldn't need MAP programs, therapy. We wouldn't need any of that. If love were enough, somebody could just look at you and go, I love you, and you would stop, because you would know that you were hurting them. I knew that I was hurting people. I don't know that I understood the depth of what I was hurting people, but enough people told me that my use was hurting them. And I would always rationalize it and be like, well, it's not really a problem for you, it's a problem for me, But I think underneath it all, I really got it. Like, I really understood. I mean, I wasn't really telling my mom a whole lot of what was going on because I knew that it would crush her, Very similar to when I was being bullied. I didn't tell my mom because I knew that would crush her. My mom had a full picture. My dad and my stepmom did, and tried to step in a lot. But if my mom had a full picture, especially in the middle of her addiction, I think it probably would have killed her. And so I did keep a lot of it from her. But I wish people understood that's why it's important to educate yourselves. I mean, even if you're sitting there and you're an enabler, you're an enabler. Enablers know they're enablers. They know they shouldn't have given that $60. They know their kids using it on dope. They know that their wife or their husband. You know that. You're an enabler if you're an enabler. I mean, we've all been enablers in one situation or another. The difference is, I think, when you choose to educate yourself or not. Like, the book The Beautiful Boy by David Sheff is fantastic, because it is about a guy that is a chief enabler, and he teaches himself out of it. I don't even know why I'm talking about this today, but early recovery looks so completely different. And so I think when you're you've been sober for a long time, a real question that I didn't really even think about my first 5 years of sobriety, I don't even know that I heard the term till a lot later, was emotional sobriety. What is emotional sobriety? And emotional sobriety is, who am I once I put the drink or the drug down? Who am I inside? Am I working on those things? I've shown my ass a lot in my life. I've talked to people incorrectly a lot in my life. I don't want to be that person today. And one of the ways for me to do that was to do inventory with my sponsor and look at those specific pieces of where I had spoken horribly to people or said horrible things, because I don't want to be that person anymore, right? And then take those pieces and then work with my therapist on that. I'm somebody that You know, a lot of people will say like, oh, you're a drama channel and you hold it. If people change and grow, I will acknowledge that. I hope that I am not held to my worst day that I ever had for the rest of my life. You know, like I wouldn't want to do that to somebody else either. But I think that you also have to show change and growth. I'm not talking about this in a drama channel context. I'm talking about for yourself. You have to do that if you want to enjoy the world. Well, there was a day that came that I knew that I had to take a look at why I thought certain things I said or did were okay at that time. You know, it was easy for me to say I'm not that person today, but what got me to not being that person today? And I had to look at that stuff. You know, there's a great line in The Alienist. I actually, you know what? I have it written. I think I have it written in my phone. Hold on a second. Let's see if I have it in my notes. The Alienist. Did I write it down? It was this line that oh wait. It's human nature to make mistakes. We sometimes might fail, but we should not be defined by our failures. And I love that line so much in The Alienist, right? I watched that years ago. I don't think that anybody should be defined by their failures or their mistakes, but I also think that if we should be defined by something, we should be defined by our attempt at growth, our attempt to change, instead of our lack of unwillingness to change or grow. If you're constantly being held to what you did 10 years ago, then there should be probably evidence that you're still doing those things today, right? Like, I don't want to be the person that did those things, and so I had to change. And that's what emotional sobriety is. Emotional sobriety is, I mean, you know, there were periods of years, you know, I didn't go to meetings for 4 years, but probably the year or two before that and the year or two after that. So you're talking probably, what, 8 years of my life, I was in not a great place. And so I didn't have any emotional sobriety. I wasn't treating other people well, and I wasn't treating myself well. And that's not an excuse. That's just the truth. And so for me, it was about, okay, who am I once you put the drink and the drug down? Like, that's a lot for some people, right? Like, that was a lot for me for years 1 through 5, even 10 maybe. But then there became a question of, who do you want to be now? Who do you want to grow into? Who do you want to change? Do you want to be filled with anger or resentment? Do you know, or do you want to be something different than that? You know, I want to be something different than that. And so that's what emotional sobriety is. It's about feeling your emotions and allowing yourself to feel your emotions and feel through your emotions. You know, not just stay stuck in anger or stuck in sadness or stuck in joy all the time. I don't think that's healthy either. I think it's the bitter and the sweet. You have to feel both sides of it. But that's the emotional sobriety part. Something I didn't understand during those 8 years and something I didn't understand in early sobriety. It was just enough for me not to pick up the bottle and put it to my lips. Like, and I think that that's one thing. Like, people ask me all the time, like, if you could help another addict or alcoholic out there, like for you guys, when you say, what should I do to help somebody in my life that's an alcoholic or an addict? Don't put too much pressure on the first year. It's just enough for some people to just not pick up. I mean, that's a lot to just not pick up. You know, now, sobriety looks a lot different today than when I first got sober, early sobriety. When I first got sober, that was enough for people. We were congratulating people for just not picking up. Today in early sobriety, we still do, but I think there's so many people that are getting sober and they've been sober 2 months and then they're going back to college and they're changing their completely fitness regime and, you know, they're changing everything. They're not smoking, they're not drinking caffeine, they're doing all this kind of stuff, right? And so the bar of what success looks like is completely different. When I first got sober, it was like, if you just aren't picking up, like, hey, you're doing great today. If you got out of bed, made your bed, and you didn't pick up today, you're doing great today. I still think that that's doing great because I see people struggle all the time because I think there's a lot of people out there that are shooting for the stars and some of them are making it. And I don't know that that has anything to do with addiction. But I also see people that are coming in and going out, coming in and going out, coming in and going out because I think that they're basing themselves, well, if that person's doing this, me just getting out of bed and making my bed and having a cup of coffee and going to 2 meetings today, that ain't enough. That fuck it in, and that's a lot. That's a lot. And I'm sorry to swear on this channel because I don't usually swear on this channel, but that's a lot for people in early sobriety to just not pick up. That was enough for me to just not pick up, you know? And I'm still here, and I'm coming up on 30 years, you know? And, like, we don't borrow time, but, I mean, I am, you know? And it's like, I did what I was told in early sobriety. Even though I was resistant to it, I did the things I was told. I've been resistant a lot. Not resistant, but asked a lot of questions on why, you know? To the point where I've had numerous sponsors say, just don't ask why anymore, just do it. That's natural for me to ask why. But I think I'm so grateful for the people that said things to me like, you're exactly where you need to be today. Allow yourself to feel your feelings. It's enough for you just to get through the day. I mean, for some of us out there, I'm not just talking about alcohol issues and drug issues. I'm talking about mental health issues. somebody watching this video today, it was enough for you to turn on your phone and watch a video. Somebody else, it was enough for you to take a shower. Somebody else, it was enough for you to eat something today. Somebody else, it's been weeks in the works to get you out the door and go to work, and you're back at your job, and that's huge success. You know, don't ever measure your success compared to somebody else's, because your success doesn't look like somebody else's, and that took me a long time to realize, you know? I've shared this before about going to my high school reunion when Alex and I went for my 20 year, and I felt like I was so behind on life. And all these people had, you know, $500,000, $1 million homes and all this kind of 401ks and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's not what my life looks like. You know, I don't have all this stuff. You know, I'm doing the best I can to save a little bit here and there. And all these people were like, oh my God, you guys have the best life. You have so much fun. And I looked around and I thought, I do have a good life. And it doesn't look like somebody else's. And it's like my friend of mine that said years ago, my friend in sobriety, he said, you always lose by comparison. You always lose when you compare yourself. I don't know. I think it's cool when I see people like in early sobriety that change everything and don't drink caffeine and vape or smoke and don't drink coffee, and they're working at the gym 7 days a week, and they got, you know, a job and saving all this money to buy a house, and, you know, they're doing 15 volunteer positions, and they're also going back and getting their master's degree, and they're 2.5 months sober. That was not my story. That was not my story. I'll be honest with you, I sometimes question whether or not those people are they have addiction issues, because I couldn't have even put it together. And most of the people that I know, like, I can tell you right now, if Tanya was sitting right here, she'd be like, I couldn't have done all that shit at 2 months. I couldn't have done that shit at a year. You know? So I think that's great that people can do that, but do not compare your journey to somebody else's at all. Because if I had had a bunch of people around me like that, because I did for a very long time compare my story to other people. If I had had people around me in early sobriety that were shooting for the moon and having all this kind of stuff and whatever, the people that I got sober with around the time that the people that, no matter what their ages were when I got sober, we were drinking coffee and Perkins and Denny's, and we were just trying to put one day together with the next. It wasn't about accomplishing all of our dreams in a year. But that first year or two, where I was working on, like, is there a God? What does God look like for me? Oh, I made it another day, put a check mark on the calendar in the kitchen, because I kept a calendar every day for 2 years and check marked them off how many days I had. Oh, I made my bed today. My sponsor come over. I couldn't wait to show him how I made the bed, you know, and oh, I made a pot of coffee. Those were huge achievements for me, you know, those were huge achievements for me. When I started working, you know, I started working pretty early on. I started volunteering, and that turned into a job real quick. But I can remember, I was telling somebody this the other day, like, we talked about, you know, my first paycheck, my first paycheck and what my paycheck was like for months after that was $412 for 2 weeks. I'll never forget that. And I think I was making $7.12 an hour, $7-something an hour, $7.11, $7.20 an hour, I don't know, $7-something an hour I was making. And those were some of the best years of my life. You know, I can remember coming home and making a pot of coffee, you know, and like, I can remember this one gal that I worked with. She and I used to go to the pool in the summer when we both get off work at the same time, like at 12 o'clock, and the pool was open all night long at the apartment complex, so we go swimming and stuff like that, and she was sober too. And, you know, I can remember us going to like midnight meetings and all that kind of stuff. Those were some of the best years of my life, you know. I still didn't have anything figured out at all, you know. I was a tech. I wasn't a counselor or anything like that. I was just a tech, you know, in a treatment facility. And, but those were some of the best years I can remember, those first couple years. And I wasn't making any money. And I can remember getting that paycheck of like, and people ask a lot about savings, you know. I can remember getting that first paycheck, and I remember calling my dad about that first paycheck. And he said, I don't remember how much he said. I think it was like $10 or $20. But he was like, if you were smart, you take $10 or $20, and every week you'd open a savings account and you put it in there. And I did. And that was kind of the beginning of that. Even though I didn't have it, he was like, pay yourself first. It was something I heard years later with Dave Ramsey, pay yourself first. I don't even know how much I put, like $10. But, you know, when you're making $400 every 2 weeks, and over the course of a year, you get a couple $100 in savings, that feels like a lot, you know? It really does. I don't know, there was a purity and an innocence that came with those earlier years. You know, once you start, as we say in recovery, getting your family back and, you know, getting your friends back and getting your life back, it's like, then you're just, You know, I used to always say this. My dad would say, you know, like, you're not a C becoming an A because you got sober. You're an F becoming a C. You're just where everybody else is at. And I know that sounds like kind of a demeaning quote, but like, it really helped me a lot realize that I think even though I knew I didn't deserve it, there was this internal thing about me that felt like I deserved pats on the back for being sober early on when I was just getting to where everybody else was getting, you know? And I'm grateful that I had people that weren't, my dad wasn't in sobriety and he was telling me those things. I mean, he was proud of me, you know, but he wasn't saying, you know, like, oh, congratulations. I mean, I've seen people, it's like, you know, congratulations, let's buy you a car. You got a year sober. I don't think that helps addicts and alcoholics. I just don't, you know? I don't think that helps them at all. I think to acknowledge it does. My mom on my sobriety birthday, you know, would buy me meditation books and plants and things like that. But she got it because she got sober after I did. You know, Alex has bought me some things through the years for my sobriety birthday. It's like, you know, friends of mine have. Tanya and I always get something for each other. You know, this year for her, well, either for Christmas or sobriety birthday, I'm going to get her one of those recovery mugs with her sobriety birthday on it. I think I'm going to get one for my sponsor too because she drinks a mad amount of coffee. But, you know, I think back on those early days, and it was really about, I don't know, there was a purity and an innocence. And I still feel that when I go to meetings today, you know? I always leave just feeling like how I imagine other people must feel when they go to church. Because I don't get that feeling from church. The times I've gotten that from church are when I go to like midnight mass on Christmas Eve, which I don't do, but I used to back in the day. And I would hear like the hymns being sung. And it was like the all hymn mass. Do you know what I'm talking about? Or like the midnight service where it's all hymns. Sometimes I would get that feeling then, but like, I feel like when I go to a meeting and I leave, typically, I feel the way that other people must feel spiritually when they leave church. They feel like filled with some kind of spirit, you know? And, what is this? Yeah, so I don't know. But I know that seeing what time it was, 6:01. I know that early in sobriety, it was just enough for me to put, and you know what? Like, I think that's where the purity and the innocence is. I think that's why it's really important for me not to forget that. So for years, I kind of did forget that. You know, when I came back in for my first couple of years and I got, you know, after not going to meetings forever and I came back in and I was going to meetings like every day, twice a day. I think I did kind of forget that. I started taking it for granted a little bit about that. I'm just as close to my next drink as somebody that has 2 days sober as somebody that has 50 years sober. That's the truth, okay? If I stop doing what I need to do to stay sober, I'm just as close to the next drink or drug as the next person is. Period, end of story. I think I kind of forgot that a little bit. Oh! I think I forgot that a little bit. And then my sponsor at the time had recommended that I try some different meetings. And I go there, and because everybody that I was hanging out with had the same amount of sobriety as me and things like that. My life doesn't look like that today. My friends in sobriety all have different varying amounts of time in sobriety. And he said, I think that you need to go to some meetings that you don't know people in and be like a newcomer, you know? And so I did. And I wasn't allowed to like share how much time of sobriety that I had unless somebody asked me. That was like one of his rules. He was like, you just need to go in there and act like a newcomer. Not like fake it, but like not go in there and be like, I don't even remember how much time I had at that time. But he was like, you just need to go in there and not like, you know, be like, yeah, I've been sober for this amount of time and blah, 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 whatever. Just go in there and just like, if they're talking about honesty, share about honesty from where you're at today. If they're talking about resentment, share about resentment from where you're at today. But don't reference it and like, well, when I got sober in 94, you know, you can't do any of that kind of stuff. You just need to go in there and just share. And it was eye-opening to me because I was around the one meeting that I was going to, which was a candlelight meeting. There was a halfway house here in town that is filled with all guys that are court ordered there. And they have to make a year commitment to being there. And so they would come to this, I think it was a Friday night candlelight, and they would come to this meeting every Friday night. And these were guys that, they were court ordered, but they opted to court order there. They literally like said to the court, like, please court order me this place for a year, okay? Like, and if they didn't successfully complete this program for a year, they couldn't, I mean, it was a lockdown facility that they had like at night, like they were driven places at night, they would go and they had to be in by 10 and they couldn't leave until 6 the next morning and things like that. And they, like, their addiction was so bad that they would go to the court and they would say to the judge, like, please like commit me here for, it wasn't even a psych unit or anything like that. It was a halfway house. But they were like, please let me make a year commitment to this place. And if they failed, then they would be incarcerated. They would have to do jail time. When I met these guys, they were so nice, you know, and some of them had 20 days and some of them had 6 months, you know, but they literally, all of them really taught me about just taking it one day at a time, and that we're only given a daily reprieve in a way that I had kind of forgotten through the years. And it was really, really powerful for me. And I think that really set the foundation for this last 10 years, 15 years of my sobriety, where I really looked at it in a different way. Well, I guess it was the last 10 years. Really looked at it in a different way, where I don't forget today about that I'm just as close to a drink or a drug as the next person is. It doesn't have really anything to do with time. Like that being said, there's a whole lot of things that come along differently with it. I wasn't concerned about emotional sobriety and early sobriety because I didn't give a shit, because all I wanted to do was not drink or drug. And there were many days that I wanted to drink or drug. So it was only about not drinking or drugging in early sobriety. And I mean like my first 2 to 5 years. It wasn't until just the last 5 to 10 years I started thinking about emotional sobriety. Who really am I? You know, I mean, I'd done all the work, I'd done all this kind of stuff, therapy, inventory, whatever, but like really, who am I at my core? What are my wants? What are my desires? Who do I want to be? 30 years without a drink or a drug, it's not about that anymore. So really, who are you at your core? And that's when you start facing that stuff. You do inventory, and then you take the inventory, you go work with your therapist and things like that. So I think that's where, when I was saying in my vlog yesterday, like big changes are coming. Like, I don't know what's next. But I know that I've been working on becoming this next version of myself for a long time. I just don't know what that is yet. So anyway, that was a long-winded answer about all that kind of stuff. I don't even know how I got there. I love talking about addiction. I haven't talked about addiction and recovery for a long time over here. I'm very excited to go to this meeting tonight. I'm really excited to see Tanya and see my friends and stuff. I'm really excited. Okay, so last night, Alex and I watched 2 episodes of Schitt's Creek, and then I took a nap, and then took a wonderful nap, and then got up and lit all the candles, everything. And then I read my 2 Christmas books. So I don't know if I said this. I think I said this in my vlog. Oh, I showed them in my vlog. The 25 Days by Per Jacobson, and the second one is called Xmas Break. I started that last night. They're both completely different, but the Xmas Break one I almost kind of like more. It doesn't feel so much like one day at a time, because it's just 25 chapters that kind of flood together. I mean, you could read it as a book. It's the 25 days feels like each day you're reading a day. But I sat in that chair with I have my little neck light that book light that I read with. And I sat in that chair and I made coffee, and I lit all the candles and the candle wax. I tried Winterberry last night by Happy Wax, which is not my favorite scent, and I loved it. And that's so weird. And I loved it. And so, oh my God, I forgot to tell you guys the big news. Oh, where's my phone, first of all? Okay. Well, first of all, we'll get to the books in just a second. I'll end on that. I have a few things to tell you guys because so many people asked. Okay. Where is Caroline? Okay, so Caroline gave me the full directions for the mushrooms. Okay, here you go. Crock pot mushrooms. Prep time, 5 minutes. Cook time, 3 hours. Total time, 3 hours, 5 minutes, 4 servings. Okay. 1 pound of mushrooms, 1/2 cup butter, 1 1-ounce envelope of ranch salad dressing mix. Okay? People are asking about water. Put mushrooms, butter, and ranch salad dressing mix in a slow cooker. Step 2, cook on low for 3 to 4 hours. Okay? Where does she tell me in here how much time? Crock pot high at the beginning and then turn to low or warm, she said. She said, I wash 2 pounds of mushrooms and set them out to dry and then add them to the crock pot. At first, it is too much for the crock pot I have, and then they cook down and I add more. Everyone loves them so much. I said, thank you. And she said, started the madness tonight, liking it. Good TV is coming back now that winter is here. There you go. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Okay, the second thing I wanted to say, who are we going to blame for this comment? Okay, where is it at? I'm going to blame, where is it at? Well, a couple people. Jessica Emmy, and Patty. And Patty, you're about to get yourself in some big trouble, okay? So all three of them gave me recommendations for walking pads that I looked at last night. Patty said, Peter, it is so time to buy the walking pad. I ordered mine from us home fitness code. It's a treadmill, C1 speed 0.6 to 0.62 miles per hour. It's small, quiet, and does the job. I use it every single day for 2 hours and couldn't be happier. Buy the thing already. So I bought the thing already. I bought it last night. Hold on, here it is. It was on sale, originally $259. I got it for $199.99. The folding treadmill with incline, 4-in-1 foldable walking pad with handlebar, under desk treadmill for home office walking pad. I think this is different though. It's the same one. I looked up the one that you told me. It goes from like till, I think it's like 7.5 or 0.75 speed. But it was $259.99 and I got it for Cyber Monday deal, $199. And it's going to be here between the 9th and the 10th of December. And of course I'll do a whole unboxing. So I bought the treadmill. Very excited about that. Woo! High five. Give me high fives. So yes. So thank you, Patty. I bought the one that Patty told me. I looked at all of them. That Emmy told me and Jessica, I looked at all of them. But the one that Patty told me, I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking at. It's got you got to put the iPad up here. It's got the foldable arms. You can fold it under the table. I'm going to put it right over there. It's going to be good, and I'm real excited about it, Patty. No, thank you, Patty. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you guys that gave me recommendations. Okay, so the book thing. So I lit all the candles, lit all the wax melts, had my coffee and whatever. And, you know, I talked about this on my BookTube channel today, but I'm going to share a little bit over here for those of you that don't watch my BookTube channel. I've been talking a lot about self-care, and I've been sharing how, you know, the doctor said that I need to do self-care, like everybody in my life. Self-care, self-care. And, like, I can tell anybody in the world how to do self-care, but when it comes to me, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to do that for myself. Unless I'm doing it. Like, when I'm walking, like, that feels like self-care to me. It's so cold. To be honest with you, I just cannot put all the clothes on and the coats and all that stuff to walk, which is why that's one of the reasons of many that I bought the walking pad, because I was like, then you'll have no excuse. So, but when I'm walking and I'm listening to an audiobook, like that feels like self-care. I'm really happy. When I take a long shower, I light a candle, I put on all the lotions and do that stuff, that feels like self-care. A nap feels like self-care. But I have to be careful about the napping, because the napping and the sleeping, I can sleep too much. Like today, I paused the alarm like twice. I was like, get up, you want to get some stuff done. So I have to be careful, because I could sleep 20 hours a day. I don't. I literally sleep like 6 hours a day. And then it's so funny because people are always like, oh my God, you rest and relax so much. I sleep, like I go to bed so late, and then it takes me an hour to fall asleep. I literally probably get 5.5 hours to 6 hours of sleep every night. And then if I take a nap, I take an hour-and-a-half nap. So I'm total in 24 hours getting about 7 to 7.5 hours of sleep. Most people sleep between 8 and 10 hours a night. But apparently, I guess I rest too much. Anyway, so I wish I could rest even less. No. But anyway, but I have to be careful with the napping thing, because I'm good for a 3-hour nap. I could take a good 3-hour nap all day long. So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what self-care looks like for me, right? And so last night, and making the videos are self-care. But sometimes, like if I'm not feeling it, maybe it's not self-care. So I have to be careful with that too, right? Like today, I made 2 videos, and I was like, the crying my eyes out, the bedding video and stuff. And I was like, I need to make some funny videos. I need to laugh and whatever. So I did that. So last night, I had the candles lit, and I was reading my books. I was drinking my coffee. And it was really I don't remember which book it was, but I read the 25 Days chapter, which was so short last night. I was so pissed. So I read like when it turns midnight. So I read the December 3rd. Yeah, December 3rd, I read it midnight. And then the Xmas break one, I read the first 3 chapters in it. And then I'm reading 20 chapters a night, A Maximum Ride by James Patterson. I've ordered so many James Patterson books. I'm so in it to win it with the James Patterson books. I'm so back with those. I'm so excited about it. I looked up all the James Patterson books in the series, so I think I'm gonna read all the James Patterson books, all 200 of them. Maybe. I'm having so much fun. They're cheesy, but they're good, quick reads, you know? They're fun to kind of like escape and whatever. And the chapters are so short. I'm like, I'm just gonna do one more. I'm just gonna do one. So I sat there last night Anyway, at some point while I was reading, I like got up to go do something in the kitchen, like get another cup of coffee or something, and I'd had a headache earlier and it went away, and I just felt so peaceful in that moment. And I was like, I forgot how much I just love audiobooks. I love, right? But I forgot how much I love to just get into a physical copy book and just, I want one more chapter, one more chapter. I kind of forgot how much I love that. And it's so crazy that these advent calendar books and the James Patterson books are getting me back to that space. And so it's like, I look forward to that. Now, like today I got up and I was like, I can't wait to put my cozy pajamas on when I come home tonight from my meeting, and I can't wait to sit in a chair. I might take a nap when I come home, but I can't wait because Caroline's not picking me up till 1:20, and I probably won't film a bunch tomorrow because of us going and doing Cousin Fun Day and stuff like that. It just depends. We'll see. But anyway, so I was like, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to read tonight. I'm going to watch 1,000-Pound Best Friends. And I was like, I can't wait to put my comfy pajamas on and sit in that chair and just read tonight with a candle. Oh my God, the battery stopped again. I'm at an hour. Did you guys notice yesterday? I noticed when I was putting the vlog together that at half an hour, I said I was at an hour. And then at an hour, I said I was at a half an hour mark. Did any of you catch that on the vlog? Anyway, but I can't wait to come home tonight and read. I'm really excited about it. I'm like, I've got that back again. And it reminds me, I think it's a lot of like, it's interesting how this happened. Because I bought the Advent calendar books, right? But then I found out about that. Tanya told me to watch Cross, and watching Cross, which was based on the Alex Cross novels by James Patterson, that got me interested in the Alex Cross books again, which got me interested in James Patterson again, and I'm reading Maximum Ride. It's like the first in like 7 books. It's okay. It's not the greatest book in the entire world, but it's okay. But I like it. It's like, it's a page turner. I mean, it literally is like, you're like, oh my God, I'll read one more chapter. But it reminds me of like those early days when Tanya and I became friends, that like we would always stop at the grocery store, like I was talking about the other day, and get a hardback book and be like, oh my God, I can't, wait to read this new book. It was really fun. So yeah, I'm back to reading it again. Actually, last night I was like looking through my books and I was like, okay, after these Advent calendar books are done, which book can I pick to read like, a chapter a day? I mean, there's a lot of books, so you can read a chapter a day. So I think I'm going to start doing that in January, is that like, just pick 1 or 2 books, other than everything else that I'm reading, 1 or 2 books that like every day I read a chapter. Well, the short story ones, Crash Diet and the Raymond Chandler book, I haven't finished those yet. And so Raymond Carver book, I haven't finished those yet. And so I probably will go in and read a chapter every day until I'm done with those. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, because that hour or hour and a half that I sit there and read every night now, even though it's just been a couple nights, like I'm really enjoying that. I'm really having a good time doing that. So, okay, I need to start getting ready here in about 5 or 10 minutes. So I want to get these videos up. So I am going to get off here now. I'm going to get off here now so that I can start rendering this vlog, and then it can upload while I'm gone, and then I can get my other videos up as well. So I'm going to get off here now. So thank y'all for listening to me. What TV shows are you guys watching? What Christmas movies, if you're watching, or whatever movies you're watching? And then also, what books are you reading? Let me know in the comment section below. If nobody else has told you, I hope you guys are having a magically amazing Tuesday. Stay warm. If nobody else, when you guys are like, I live in Southern Florida, it's 85 degrees today. Well, I wish I was there. Thank you for the invite. Anyway, I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Tuesday. If nobody else has told you this today, I love you guys. I haven't done my long outro in a while, but we'll save that for tomorrow or the next day. Anyway, I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya. Happy birthday, Lena.